Alex Eala stepped onto center court carrying more than just a tennis racket. She carried the hopes of an entire nation. As millions watched around the world, an unmistakable silence settled over the stadium, the kind that appears when a dream begins to slip away. The serve that had always been one of her greatest weapons suddenly became a source of uncertainty, and with every shaky motion, it was clear something deeper than her opponent was affecting her performance. Although Jasmine Paolini eventually claimed victory, the real reason behind Eala's defeat had far less to do with the final score than most people realized. To understand what happened, you have to go back to Monday evening, the 6th of July. By then, Alex Eala was no longer seen as an underdog. Just 2 days earlier, she had stunned the tennis world by defeating defending champion Iga Swiatek, transforming herself into one of the biggest stories at Wimbledon. The pressure she carried onto center court was unlike anything a Filipino tennis player had ever experienced. Every bounce of the ball drew the crowd's attention, and every point carried enormous expectations. Although she eventually lost to Jasmine Paolini in 3 hard-fought sets, 4-6, 6-4, 3-6, her impact had already become historic. The excitement surrounding Eala's remarkable run extended far beyond Wimbledon. Highlights of her victory over Swiatek attracted more than 1.2 million views on the official Wimbledon YouTube channel, surpassing the audience for matches involving legends such as Novak Djokovic and Serena Williams. For a 21-year-old from Quezon City, this was an extraordinary achievement that demonstrated just how rapidly her popularity had grown on the global stage. Back home in the Philippines, support for Eala reached unprecedented levels. The government opened the PhilSports Arena in Pasig City for a free public watch party that welcomed thousands of fans. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. praised her as a true inspiration, emphasizing that success at Wimbledon represents the highest level of achievement in tennis. Even after her defeat, Eala refused to leave the court in disappointment. Instead, she formed a heart with her hands, acknowledged the standing ovation from center court, and reminded her supporters to never say die and to play every point as though everything depends on it. It was a farewell that felt less like a defeat and more like the arrival of a future champion. Yet behind the emotional applause lay a difficult truth. The very weapon expected to carry Eala into the quarterfinals deserted her from the opening game. Her serve, a weakness that many analysts had quietly discussed for more than a year, failed her at the worst possible moment. This was the real reason behind her loss. It was not because Jasmine Paolini produced an unbeatable performance, but because Eala's serve never found its rhythm. Her first serve floated across the net at speeds of around 80 miles per hour or even slower, landing successfully barely half the time. Official statistics showed her first serve percentage at only 55.7%, meaning she frequently began rallies at an immediate disadvantage. At one stage, one of her serves registered just 65 miles per hour, a remarkably low speed for a professional player competing at Wimbledon. The most painful moment arrived when she trailed 4-1 in the opening set. She pushed a tentative first serve into the bottom of the net before sending her second serve long. Throughout the match, she won only 48.7% of points behind her second serve, allowing Paolini to attack aggressively. The Italian repeatedly stepped inside the baseline, punishing every soft delivery. Once a player loses confidence in their serve, every aspect of their game becomes more difficult. Instead of attacking with freedom, they begin playing cautiously, hesitating when confidence is needed most. This weakness was far from a surprise. Tennis analyst Gil Gross had previously described Eala as having the weakest serve among the world's top 50 players, noting that her exceptional talent in every other area had compensated for this flaw. BBC commentator Kia Thaving echoed the same concern, pointing out that Eala's average second serve speed of 74 miles per hour was significantly below both the WTA Tour average of 86 miles per hour and the top 10 average of 92. The serve had always been a visible weakness. It simply took the pressure of center court for that crack to become impossible to ignore. What made the situation even more puzzling was that the very same serve had worked brilliantly only 48 hours earlier against Iga Swiatek. Her technique had not changed overnight, which raises the most important question of all. What happened between Saturday's unforgettable triumph and Monday's heartbreaking defeat? The answer lies in the 48 hours leading up to the match, and it has more to do with human emotion than technical ability. Defeating Iga Swiatek was not merely another victory for Alex Eala, it was the defining moment of her career. It was a seismic achievement that sent shockwaves through the tennis world and instantly transformed her into one of the biggest stories at Wimbledon. Experiences of that magnitude leave a lasting emotional impact, and recovering from such an incredible high within just 2 days is far easier said than done. Eala herself acknowledged this challenge after the match. Speaking with quiet honesty, she admitted that managing her emotions was part of being a professional athlete and that this was not the first time she had celebrated a major victory before having to compete again almost immediately. Behind those carefully chosen words was the reality of a young player trying to come down from the highest point of her career, while millions of fans around the world celebrated her remarkable achievement. The statistics tell the story even more clearly. Against Swiatek, Eala's serve had been remarkably effective. She averaged 86.3 miles per hour on her first serve, fired 4 aces, committed no double faults, and won 55% of her second serve points. Even Swiatek admitted afterward that the slow pace of Eala's serve made it mentally difficult to anticipate and return consistently. Rather than being a weakness, the serve had become an unexpected weapon that perfectly complemented the rest of her game. Just 2 days later, however, everything changed. The confidence that had defined her serving performance against Swiatek disappeared. Instead of recording 0 double faults, she committed 3. Her success rate on second serve points dropped below 50%, allowing Paolini to dictate far too many rallies. Spanish tennis outlet Puntodbreak suggested that the enormous expectations created by Eala's historic victory weighed heavily on her shoulders, leaving her less physically fresh and mentally sharp than she had been on Saturday. There were also subtle signs of physical fatigue. Preventive tape was wrapped around Eala's left forearm, although she dismissed any concerns by explaining that it was simply precautionary after a demanding season. Even so, the combination of physical weariness and emotional exhaustion was difficult to ignore. Despite those challenges, Eala demonstrated remarkable determination. Although she was clearly not performing at her best, she fought back to claim the second set and force the contest into a deciding third. That resilience proved she still possessed the talent and competitive spirit needed to win the match. Unfortunately, the player standing across the net had spent years mastering exactly these kinds of pressure-filled situations. Experience made the difference. It is impossible to fully understand this match without recognizing Jasmine Paolini's exceptional performance. While much of the attention focused on Alex Eala's inspiring Wimbledon run, Paolini quietly reminded everyone why experience remains one of the most valuable qualities in professional tennis. At 30 years old, Paolini had already endured the highs and lows of competing at the sport's highest level. A former world number 4 and the joint highest-ranked Italian woman in tennis history, she had reached the finals of both the French Open and Wimbledon during the same season. She understood the unique pressures of the second week of a Grand Slam far better than Eala, who was experiencing that environment for the first time. Ironically, Paolini entered Wimbledon under difficult circumstances. A troublesome foot injury had disrupted her preparation for the grasscourt season, and her campaign began in the worst possible fashion when she lost her opening set of the tournament 6-0. Many players would have allowed such a disappointing start to damage their confidence. Instead, Paolini responded with remarkable composure, rebuilding her game point by point and match by match until she regained her best form. That composure ultimately proved decisive. During the final set against Eala, Paolini produced some of her highest quality tennis of the tournament. She won an outstanding 94% of her first serve points, surrendered only 5 points on serve throughout the set, and never faced a single breakpoint when the pressure was at its highest. She also approached the net 27 times, winning 18 of those exchanges, clear evidence of a player completely confident in both her instincts and her decision-making under pressure. Even Paolini admitted that seeing Roger Federer watching from the royal box inspired her performance. She described Federer as her childhood idol and confessed that she tried not to think about the fact that one of the greatest players in history was witnessing her match. What made her victory even more impressive was the context. Earlier in the season, Eala had defeated Paolini in Dubai by scores of 6-1 and 7-6. The Wimbledon result was therefore not a reflection of superior talent. Instead, it highlighted the value of experience, emotional control, and the ability to remain composed during the biggest moments. Paolini had faced these situations before and knew exactly how to manage them, while Eala was still learning how to navigate the immense pressure that accompanies success on the sport's grandest stage. As the deciding set unfolded, that difference became increasingly apparent. Eala's confidence gradually began to fade under the weight of the occasion, and there was one crucial stretch of the match where her inexperience surfaced at precisely the wrong moment. It was during those few critical points that the momentum shifted permanently, quietly deciding the outcome of an otherwise incredibly even contest. If there was a single point in the match where Alex Eala's Wimbledon dream truly began to slip away, it was hidden within the smallest of margins. Although the final score suggested a clear victory for Jasmine Paolini, the contest itself was remarkably balanced from beginning to end. Throughout much of the match, the two players were separated by only a single point. At one stage, Paolini had won 69 points while Eala had won 68, a difference so small that it perfectly illustrated how evenly matched they were. This was never a one-sided defeat. It was a fiercely contested battle in which a handful of crucial moments ultimately determined the outcome. As the deciding set unfolded, every rally carried greater significance. Both players understood that one lapse in concentration could change everything. Eala continued to fight with determination, creating opportunities to shift the momentum back in her favor. However, at this level of professional tennis, opportunities are meaningless unless they are converted. Each missed chance allowed Paolini to tighten her grip on the match, gradually placing even greater pressure on the young Filipino. Rather than forcing spectacular winners, Paolini relied on patience and consistency. She extended rallies, limited her mistakes, and repeatedly challenged Eala to play one extra shot. It was a strategy built on experience rather than brilliance. Point after point, she refused to panic, waiting for the slightest opening before taking control. That relentless discipline slowly wore Eala down, both physically and mentally. Meanwhile, Eala found herself battling more than just her opponent. Every missed first serve increased the pressure she felt. Every second serve gave Paolini another opportunity to attack aggressively from inside the baseline. The uncertainty surrounding her serve began affecting the rest of her game, making it increasingly difficult to play with the freedom and confidence that had defined her stunning victory over Iga Swiatek only 2 days earlier. When the final point was played, the scoreboard confirmed Paolini's victory. Yet the statistics alone failed to capture the true nature of the contest. This was not simply a case of one player outperforming another. Instead, it was a powerful reminder that success at the highest level of tennis often depends on emotional control, composure under pressure, and the ability to execute in the biggest moments. Those were the qualities that ultimately separated the experienced Paolini from the rising young star standing across the net.